Electricast.
Knock, knock, real estate pros. You could save up to 30% when you file your taxes with Block Advisors instead of a typical accountant. Block Advisors by H&R Block provides affordable tax expertise that finds every credit and deduction you deserve. 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/real estate today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for Federal Form 1040, plus Schedule C and one state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Welcome into Missing the Point. I'm your host, Michael Marcangelo, joined alongside by Kayshon Boutte and a very, very special guest, best friend of the show. She is now working for MassLive, previously at the Boston Herald for 38 years. My favorite and yours, Miss Karen Guregian. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. God, the season's about to start. So, I mean, that's a good time.
You know, I used to think about the start of football season as like a real happy spot. But now since Tom Brady left, I think of talking to you as a real happy spot. And that also means that football season it is upon us. So we're going to get into all of the Patriots off-season debacle. And we're going to get into their early season, their opener against the Eagles. And we'll even do what we did last year, where we picked their wins and losses. And by the way, you hit it right on the head last year. You said 8-9.
Yep.
On this show, you said 8-9.
I did,
So
didn't I?
We'll try and strike that again. But first, I want to ask, what led to the transition from the Herald, which you were there for, as I mentioned, 38 years now, to now MassLive.
I'll use I'll use a familiar line. I got an offer I couldn't refuse. How's that?
It's perfect.
Well, I really, God, if you're at somewhere 38 years, you think, that's where you're going to be. And I thought I would, be the one to close the lights on the Herald. I'd been there so long. But MassLive reached out to me, and they had a position opening that they were hoping that I would accept. And after meeting with them, trying to make a long story short, it's a good move for me at this stage of my career, and having a little more stability. And I mean, it's a digital outlet, and unfortunately and sadly, newspapers are dying, and there's no way around that. And I just think I have a better shot at MassLive of continuing the career I love for as long as I want.
Now, have there been any day-to-day differences in, let's just say, the last couple of years while working for the Herald, and now your first couple of months working at MassLive? Is it just like we were talking before, the structure is a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, when news happens, when I started at the Herald, news would happen. If it happened at 9 or 10 at night, then you go with something in the morning, or if you write during the day and you've posted, and you filed the story to be posted the next day in the paper, your day was kind of over. But gradually that changed, and newspapers had to adapt to the immediacy of the internet, social media, and stories getting out, and you couldn't just sit on things till the next day or you're way late. So, in that sense, I've gotten used to, kind of writing things all day long. But it's even to a greater extent at MassLive because, it's an outlet that not only, lives and dies by the people who work for them and write, cover teams and whatever. It's a news outlet as well. But, MassLive also has a desk of reporters, trending reporters, who, for lack of a better word, regurgitate news from everywhere. So, people come to the site and you can read people like me who cover specific teams, but they're also incorporating stories, trending stories. Someone from the Globe might break a story. Well, guess what? It's there. Somebody might have something interesting that somebody said it. Raphael Devers might have said something interesting to a national reporter or whatever. And, that's on the site as well. So we're constantly pumping out news, constantly pumping out information, and not just from the people who are actually covering these things, but from everywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I know that the bread and butter obviously has been the covering of the Patriots for a number of years, but I would assume that the Celtics may be on the horizon for you as well, because we saw some pictures of you at the Garden earlier this year. So are you excited to get back into basketball, and just what are your thoughts about the
Well,
Celtics?
I'm always excited to be where the best stories are.
Okay.
And there was before I sort of got settled into the Patriots for the last 15 years or so,
Mhm.
I had like a middle decade and a half where they just bounced me everywhere. But the everywhere wasn't just some random place. If the Red Sox were hot, that's where I was. If the Celtics were hot, that's where I was. If the Bruins were in the Stanley Cup, that's where I was. The Patriots win the Super Bowl. So I get sent to all the best things. I covered all the best things, and and it was great. I mean, I was very fortunate to be in that mold. But because my new bosses, as well as my old bosses, knew this too, that I'm like, I would be one of Bill Belichick's favorite players, and we might have discussed this before, because I'm versatile. I can show up anywhere and write a legitimate competitive story, or write a column, which is what I do.
Well, I think we buried the lead for long enough here. Let's get into the nitty gritty of
Yeah,
the
enough
Patriots.
about me. God, you just put everyone to sleep.
No. Listen, the fact that all this has happened over the last couple of months, and you still, the day before the NFL regular season opens, made time for us. Like you are our favorite. So, but the reason that we have you on here is so that you can, talk me off the ledge, like you have the last 2 seasons. So, what word would you use to describe the Patriots offseason to this point, Karen?
I think it's been mostly about recovery from last year's debacle, and trying to get back into some kind of functioning place, because last year was a debacle. And part of the reason for that was that, Bill Belichick entrusted a couple of coaches who had never led an offense to lead an offense. And in the process, their quarterback went cuckoo. Everybody on the offense was questioning what was going on. They had such a remedial offense that they were so easy to defend. They only did basic plays, and so basically, I think this year has been about expunging last year, trying to get everyone past that and back in a place where they're feeling a little more confident about themselves. And I think step number 1 was hiring Bill O'Brien. And I mean, you can see it both on the field, just watching oh my God, somebody's in motion. Oh my God, play action, really? It's a competitive NFL offense as opposed to whatever last year was. I mean, they do the degree of difficulty just kind of escalated. Because again, Mac, the way it went last year, my understanding anyway, is if plan A didn't work, there was just a plan B, no C, no D, no. I mean, there weren't many options off of each play. At least now, Mac, even hearing him explain it, they've given him the tools to succeed, meaning depending on what he sees, if the first two options he sees aren't going to work, there's several more options, that he can go to. And I just think, again, just talking to all the players, I think it's like Kendrick Bourne has been reborn. The new players they've brought in, whether it's JuJu Smith-Schuster, Mike Gesicki, they're all kind of loving what this offense is and loving, how Bill O'Brien is trying to utilize everyone and putting them all in positions to succeed. Now, that being said, the offensive line is worrisome. So all the good and all the advances they've made in the offense could possibly go for naught. If you can't block, really, Mac can't throw the football, and
Right.
they might not be able to even run the football. But the good news, to get you off the ledge, is several of their starters are offensive line wise have been back practicing. I don't think they're 100%, but they might have a more representative line than what we saw during the preseason, which was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, I mean, I know you use the verb recovery. For me, it's uncertainty, right? Because it's centered around the offensive line, literally. Like, if the line's not going to be what it's been in years past when they've won at high levels, then it's just like, a lot of things will be for naught, as you mentioned. But, I want to stay with Mac Jones because obviously this is year 3. Year 1, he, has a decent season, throwing for 22 touchdowns, 10 picks, becomes a pro bowler as well. And obviously last year, for many reasons, was just a down year. So just what would a successful season look like for Mac Jones? And do you think they move away from him if it's not what they envision, after the season?
Yeah, I guess it depends on, I mean, again, record wise, they still might not make the playoffs and they still might be under 500. But if Mac has a season where he throws 25 to 30 touchdowns with 8 to 10 picks, that's a legitimately good season for him.
For sure.
And I actually think the team can be good. Again, I'm not putting them in contender category, but I think they can show that they're better than last year, but not necessarily, it might not necessarily reflect in the record based on the difficulty of the schedule and also the fact that, the AFC East looks like it's going to be a bear. So,
Yeah.
But,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to get back to Mac for a second. The other thing, along with this recovery for the offense, but it's specifically focused around the recovery of Mac, because he obviously lost his mind last year.
Well, absolutely.
And again, it boggled the mind that they wanted to shift to an offense, like the Shanahan offense, and then even dumb it down further than that. And basically, you're taking away whatever advantage Mac Jones has as a quarterback. If you give him a paint by number offense that's really simple, it's not taking advantage of his best tools. His best tools, his brain, his ability to quickly process and see what the defense is doing, and then knowing what play to go to, or knowing if the play that's called is going to succeed or not, and to process that really fast. So that's one of his best tools. The other is his quick release and his accuracy. None of those of his three best traits could be on display last year, given how the offense was set up. Now, with Bill O'Brien here, Bill O'Brien, who's also, coached at Alabama, where Mac is from, and Mac thrived, between going back to the old offense, which we saw Mac thrive as a rookie, and adding in a lot of the RPOs and similar type of plays where Mac excelled at Alabama, Mac is like a new man. He really is. He's been giddy almost this year because of his comfort level with the offense, his comfort level on again, it's like knowing what he needs to do, or having an answer if the first part of the play doesn't work. He knows what to go to because there is something to go to. So they've done their best outside of getting him a legitimate game breaking type receiver. They've done what they could to make him more comfortable.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi. Whether you're into watching horror movies from your basement, watching sports from your backyard, or watching trashy reality shows from inside your car that's parked all the way in the driveway so no one in your family judges you, AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi is the best way to watch whatever you want from wherever you are.
Get AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi and add some Wi-Fi square footage to your house. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage requires extenders at additional charge.
So you mentioned that the offense last year had an option A, maybe an option B, but there was no option C.
Correct.
How long? Now I'm kind of I sip the dark Kool-Aid here. Like I'm a negative guy when it comes to Bill the GM. So how long do you think it will take before Mac doesn't have the time to get to an option C before he has another sideline explosion?
Well, I think what we saw in training camp too, and in the preseason, somewhat. I think Bill O'Brien, he's no fool. He recognizes that right now the line isn't providing time. It's not, it's not allowing for plays to develop. So all we saw him call, both during training camp and the preseason, were a lot of these quick hitters, a lot of play action to give you a little more time. There wasn't really much going downfield where, you needed however many seconds for a play to develop. Everything was quick. But ultimately what will happen with that is defenses will say, well, they're not going downfield. We're not going to put we're not going to keep safeties back. And they will have a little easier time defending them ultimately, except unlike last year, the Patriots the offense will have more tricks up its sleeve. More.
So,
yeah.
I was going to say, do you think at some point in time throughout the season, right? Because I'm not talking about playoffs. So I don't think anyone's on the Patriots team going to be talking about playoffs. At some point in time, scheming will take a back seat to talent.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what all of us see. Right. We do see that. And that's why nobody is not, I don't know, maybe a few people think they'll get to the playoffs. I don't. But as I said, They will be better just because they look like a 2023 offense as opposed to something, that you see in high school, right?
Right.
So that's progress, that's progress. And on the other side of the ball, they brought a lot of guys back and they drafted a corner number 1. So they really think they'll be better this year, but I'm still saying prove it. And, they were a top 10 defense last year. They just couldn't beat any of the good teams or good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We're mobile quarterbacks, right? So they got to,
they couldn't score though, Karen. Like the defense, I felt the defense held up many times. They legit could not score. And then the last game against Buffalo,
right, because if another team scored 25,
it was over. Yeah,
automatic loss.
yeah.
Automatic loss. But so knowing that, it puts the burden on the defense to keep teams 20 and under. They couldn't do it against the Ravens. They couldn't do it against the Bills. They couldn't do it against Miami. They couldn't do it against the teams they needed to, stop to give themselves a chance. So, but I do think they'll score more. But again, because of the offensive line, I think you're going to see, I could be wrong, but I think you're going to see a really run-heavy offense. So that, that will buy time. That will keep other teams off the field. That will take advantage of something that is a strength in their first 2 running backs. They don't have any depth after that. No. But I think Ramondre Stevenson is legitimately a very good back.
Yeah.
And I think because I know Ezekiel Elliott is old, but he, he fits in perfectly because he has the same skill set as Ramondre, so that they can work well, I think, in tandem. The problem is they haven't replaced James White. They don't have a third down back. Ramondre might be your best third down back, but again, he can't play every down and every snap because as we saw last year, he wore down.
So that's funny you mentioned about Zeke being old and like the definitely older running back years. But I was at someone on Twitter or X, whatever they call it now. They showed an old video of Kevin Falk, and I quoted the tweet saying, "Man, if Zeke can be what Kevin Falk was, like maybe this offense would be a lot different." So just get your thoughts on that, because he's going to have to be a third down back, in my opinion, in order for them to be successful. Right. And I remember like in 2020 when they were a top 5 rushing offense, and I'm the only one on the show that enjoys the running backs, like Mike and like they could care less about running backs. I love that running back position, so. I wanted to play when I was younger, but then I grew the wrong way. But yeah, just what are your thoughts on Zeke being kind of like that Kevin Falk, maybe James White type?
I think he has the hands for it. I don't know if he has the legs for it. Again, the third down back is someone that once you get the ball to them in space and then they do something with it. Yeah, and that's why Ramondre was so good. But going back, that's why Kevin Falk was so good. That's why James White was so good. They had great vision. They had a great ability once they caught the ball, to take it at least 10, 15, 20 more yards after the catch. Yeah. Is Zeke going to be able to do that? Is he going to have that kind of an impact, or are his gains going to be minimal? So in the Patriots offense, the third down back is huge because that's the guy that's so relied on, but also moves the chains, moves the sticks. Yeah. So, we'll see. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Ezekiel's going to stink in that role, but I just have some reservations, given his legs aren't quite as shifty and good as they used to be.
Well, no, that's fair.
Speaking of moving the sticks, no one has done that more over the last 3 years than Jacoby Myers, who the Patriots decided this offseason he was not worth investing in, but they could pay the exact same amount of money for JuJu Smith-Schuster, who, by all intents and purposes, is a great number 2, right? I think 3 years ago we were talking about him as a number 1, but there was a report out there a couple of days ago that his knee is ready to explode. You talked to him about this, and he, I believe you said that Albert Breer was just searching for a story. You kind of said, well, that's the job, isn't it? But based off of what you've seen, are they treating him as though his knee is on borrowed time?
Well, I think the fact that he wasn't in any of the OTAs raised some eyebrows, and that kind of, turned on everyone's meter, saying, again, because he injured the knee in the AFC Championship game. He did get back for the Super Bowl, and he did play well in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But as Burt reported, reports out of Kansas City is the Chiefs didn't re-sign him largely because they didn't want to give him the money he was looking for based on how they perceive the need to be. Okay. In kind of trying to shoot down the report, JuJu kind of, I don't want to say supported it, but he provided information that again would lend you to support the theory that his knee isn't very good. First he said it wasn't a ticking time bomb, and that maybe that's the case, but he did say that they had to, he called it a scope, a kind of a clean out procedure that they had to do post Super Bowl. And then I guess he went on a flight to Japan not long after that, and the knee swelled up.
Yep.
Not unusual, but worrisome nonetheless. And, after, he had issues on a very long flight, then it was a matter of trying to get the knee back to some semblance of healthy. And I think that's why he implied that's why they were cautious with him throughout the early camps. But once training camp started, he hasn't missed a beat.
So, in your opinion, though, why do you think Bill who has done nothing but produce over the last 3 seasons for what could be an unknown commodity in this type of an offense for JuJu?
Start your family's day on the sweeter side of life with Cheerios Oat Crunch Cinnamon. It's breakfast bliss with whole grain energy that the whole family can enjoy, with a delicious, satisfying crunch in every bite. And that extra sweetness of cinnamon. A little crunch goes a long way. To learn more and shop for Cheerios Oat Crunch, visit Cheerios.com. 24 grams to 30 grams whole grain per serving, at least 48 grams recommended daily.
Well, I think on paper, I'll give you another answer in a minute, but on paper, JuJu Smith's career in terms of yards after catch, were a lot better than Jacoby Myers, who caught everything but went nowhere. His gains were minimal. He'd kind of catch the ball, and I don't want to say go down, but he wasn't a threat to take it to the house. He wasn't a threat to, he was great at getting open and catching the ball. But in terms of those explosive type gains that this team desperately needs, he wasn't that guy. JuJu Smith-Schuster, his career has been about yards after catch, making really good contested catches and also taking the ball another 20, 30 yards. I'm not sure he's that player anymore, or
Right.
Again, given knee trouble, age, whatever. So when that trade happened, it was a head scratcher from my perspective. And the fact that why would you take away the one receiver Mac was most comfortable with? Why would you take away the guy that he always went to on third down and mostly delivered?
Yeah. Well, hopefully that becomes Kendrick Bourne again. I felt like they had great chemistry a couple years ago, and then but because he was in the doghouse with Matt Patricia and company last year, we just never seen him on the field. Then he comes back for Cincinnati. It's like, people, he can actually play. Yeah, he can. So maybe they regain their chemistry. I know Hunter Henry was also someone who was in that list.
Yeah. So Mac has shown in the in the camps and the nine attempts he had in the one preseason game, where his bread is buttered, who he likes to throw to. So, and it might be Ramondre coming out of the backfield. It's a lot of Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne, basically.
So you asked why you don't know why Bill would do that. I think it's because Bill hates Mac Jones, so he wanted to deprive him of his big key. But that's an easy, as Ray would say, a lazy talking point. But
let me just jump in. So yeah, there was a lot of theories behind it. One being it was, I'm gonna continue to destroy you, Mac. If you thought it was bad with Matt Patricia, I'm gonna take away all your. Yes, that was one narrative going around. So was the fact that they seem to be getting rid of players that showed open disgust for how the offense is going. But by that same token, Kendrick Bourne is still here, Mac is still here, so I don't think that had many legs, but it was out there.
But one of the theories going around last year was obviously that Bill favored Bailey Zappi over Mac Jones, and I think one of the most surprising developments that we saw in the offseason was the fact that Bill was willing to let Bailey Zappi go. Either he didn't care, or he was okay with him not coming back, or he knew that other teams were not gonna pick him up off the waiver wire. But then there was that other shocking move when they signed Matt Corral. So, Karen, was the fall of Bailey Zappi just a testament to the fact that last year he looked okay in an offense that really had no structure, and now they have a real offensive coordinator in there, and maybe he's not as developed as we would think?
Right. It's just, I think it totally is that. I think in a paint by numbers offense, when everything you do, everything is by rote, drop pass there, do this, do that, no variation, right? And he was fine with that, but now all of a sudden there's a lot more complexity in the offense. And again, he's having to learn an offense and also have to learn, see this offense, again, why it's suited to Mac, you have to think. You have to process, again, know what the plays are, know the offshoots, and know what's going to work based on what you see. And again, that's what made Tom Brady so great, or one of the things that made him so great was that, he'd be fed the play, he'd look out at the defense, but no, that's not going to work. I got to go to this. And he'd audible, or they would immediately go to plan Z. And again, it was a simple signal by Tom, and everybody knew, oh no, we're not doing A, we're doing F, based on what he sees. And it was that quick, but he was so quick to be able to recognize what was going to work and what wasn't. Mac Jones, again, they're putting him in the position again to utilize that ability he has and understanding he has of defense to say, okay, Bill has called this play. Yes, it's going to work. Oh, no, A isn't going to work. B isn't going to work. I'm going to go to C. But he'll know at the line he's going to C. just by looking. And for Bailey Zappi, that's a whole new
Whole new world.
Right? That's just a whole new, and again, he's trying to learn, and he looked frustrated by the whole thing. And add in the fact that the line wasn't blocking and he was getting killed and running for his life, and it didn't pan out. I think Matt Corral, again, if you're searching for a backup quarterback who has familiarity with the system, given he played for Lane Kiffin, who learned at Alabama the same kind of system, if something happens to Mac, once they get Matt Corral up to speed, assuming Bailey doesn't progress, Matt Corral would be a better option as the backup. Does that all make sense to you, Bryce?
No, yeah, no. Listen, sure hope so. Once again, if you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks, you have none. So hopefully Mac just steps up and becomes what he's supposed to be. But I want to transition to defense a little bit, because I feel like that's going to be the color card, especially early on in the season. It's going to have to be for them to be contenders eventually. So Judon, I know, got kind of like the Stephon Gilmore bump in contract this year. So I know probably next year he's going to be looking at something different. Do you think they end up extending him, or do you think they end up looking elsewhere after the season?
Knock, knock, real estate pros. You could save up to 30% when you file your taxes with Block Advisors instead of a typical accountant. Block Advisors by H&R Block provides affordable tax expertise that finds every credit and deduction you deserve. 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/real estate today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for Federal Form 1040, plus Schedule C and 1 state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
Well, I think the Patriots are always looking for the, I hate to say cheapest way, but they're always looking for the deal, and in the past, and again, it goes back to having Tom Brady. Some of their better players, Teddy Bruschi being one, were willing to, again, not go for the ultimate dollar for what they were worth. They were willing to kind of compromise and not, have to, be the highest paid or break the bank. They were willing to play ball. Today's athlete, especially if you're not on a winning team, why are they going to play ball?
What?
Right? So I think once you get into a certain range, the Patriots just aren't going to go there.
What?
They're just not going to go there.
Yeah, because I'm sure you saw the report already that dropped today with Nick Bosa on Francisco. Listen, 5 years, 170, 122 and a half guaranteed, and I'm just like, man, like if Judon goes up and has 19 or 20 sacks and actually plays all 17 and is dominant all 17, it's Chandler Jones part 2. He's gone. Like there's no
throw one more at you.
Yeah.
And again, he's not Judon, but I think because they have Judon, last year we saw Josh Uche.
Yep. Yeah.
Rise up in the sack meter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's on the final year of his deal. If he gets somewhere around 10 sacks,
mm-hmm.
the Patriots aren't going to pay him what the market is going to pay him. Just say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get money on the market. Pass rushers get money.
Yeah. Well, but that's, to me, so I agree with that, but I also think it's also dependent on what when we see from Keon White this year too. Now, I know he's been a player that everyone has kind of gravitated to. The camp, like I definitely have, I know Mike has as well. I think if he steps up and becomes that next guy, then it might be easier to see someone like Uche or Judon.
Why do you think they drafted him in the second? Why did they? It's like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Did they need him? No, but what they needed was somebody of his caliber,
mm-hmm.
because I almost think already in their mind they're just not going to pay top dollar for whether it's Judon, Uche, or whoever.
Yeah.
When the time comes.
Right.
You'll get one contract out of Bill, just one. You're not going to get 2 high-paying contracts, right?
Right. Judon already got his.
Yep. Yeah. He already got his, but it's all the frustrations that I have with Bill as the GM. It's always on the offensive side of the ball, right? Because it shows in his draft. He prioritizes defensive players over offensive players, and people here, that are in my age bracket say, well, that's because he had Brady. But if you look at it, he did it in Cleveland too. He doesn't think that you need a great quarterback to win. You just need a game manager.
Again, what's Bill's forte? It's defense. It's devising defense. He loves defensive players, loves them. And it's kind of staggering. It's like looking at the off season and looking at how both sides are constructed, all the depth, all the second layer, third layer level depth is with the defense. The offense has none on any position, 0 depth. Like if the first guy goes down, you're done. Really? Right. I mean, that's it. He just, and again, it's like you want to go, Bill, it's an offense-driven league. Bill, wake up. You need elite talent, and you need a lot of it on that side of the ball.
No, yep.
But he's still of the mindset that because he's smart and, he can scheme up a defense to shut down the top people, when he puts his mind to it. And the offense will score just enough. I mean, but he also, again, good coaching. You don't need great players. If you have great coaches, you'll be fine. But he's missing out on, you need the great quarterback.
Right.
Yep.
So I honestly think that Bill, being the defensive genius that he was, he didn't need to have a whole bunch of world beaters on defense because he was so shrewd and smart game planning that, when push came to shove, he could shut down a top offense long enough. He did it with the greatest show on turf. He's done it with Pat Mahomes for a half. He's able to scheme up and do things that at least get these great offenses off their game for at least a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you also had Brady on the other side, who it didn't matter if you and I were playing receiver, Brady would find a way.
Right.
And he was doing that and I mean, there were years where they gave him talent, but Brady covered up all the warts on offense, and Bill covered up all the warts on defense. Well, now you don't have the guy on offense to mask any of it. You don't, and just based on what we see, Mac isn't the type of quarterback who can elevate, good, not great talent like Brady was able to do.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had any signature moments. Like I think the games that, like, I think the Baltimore game last year, I think would have been a signature moment, but he got hurt. I think the Minnesota game last year would have been a signature moment, but they ended up losing that game. And even the Dallas game was rookie year, but they lost in overtime. So it's just like I don't know when that's going to come. Hopefully it's this season. But yeah, at some point, let's say as fans, we're praying, begging, hoping, pleading, whatever word you want to use, that some offensive talent at some point comes. Some Foxborough, because they need it badly. Because like I said,
you look at all. But again, it's like he is ignoring.
Yeah.
How did Jalen Hurts take a leap from one year to the next? Oh, they gave him AJ Brown.
Right.
Right.
That wanted to be here. He
right. He added AJ Brown. Joe Burrow. They got him Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Right. That elevated him. Tua Tagovailoa. They got him Tyreek Hill.
Mhm.
You can't just have one. You need multiple.
Yeah.
Patriots don't even have one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You would have thought that the Cincinnati playbook would have been what Bill was going to do too, because that proved that you don't even need to have a mediocre offensive line. If you just have one top 5 receiver that and a good quarterback, you're going to be fine. Because Burrow was sacked more than anyone else since David Carr back in 2002. Like it's wild.
And
also,
they were seriously rolling the dice with that. Again, I thought so they took Jamar Chase, but it's again the year before, that's when Burrow got broken, right?
Yeah.
And because they had nobody on the offensive line. So I'm thinking they got to go tackle. They got to get the nope. They went with the weapon, and eventually they got more help on the line. But again, they lose in the Super Bowl because he got killed again. He was running for his life the entire Super Bowl. So they finally last year bolstered that line, and they bolstered it even more this year. But the formula there is get the weapons first, get the quarterback first, add the weapons, fortify the line.
Right. You build around the weapons. Like that is, and Bill knows this too. Like that's why it's so aggravating. I can only imagine how aggravating it is for you, because you know that this man is intelligent, and he's not dumb enough to not see that that's an issue. So he's clearly just setting himself up.
Well, he's stubborn. Because again, he thinks he's smarter than everybody else, and in most cases, it's true. But
without Brady, he isn't.
Yeah, well, that's debatable. I mean, it's debatable his intelligence, but he can't just leave the offense to the side of the road,
Right.
or win with any quarterback.
This episode is brought to you by MailChimp, and we're here to talk about customers. A customer is what happens when marketers fail to personalize their marketing, grouping customers with very different behaviors into one tangled mess. But with MailChimp, marketers can use real-time behavior data to personalize every email for every customer. Turn your customers into customers with Intuit MailChimp, the #1 email marketing and automation platform. Learn more at MailChimp.com.
Before I get to my Jack Jones question, so I'm just itching to ask you about him. Do you believe in Bill's heart of hearts he thought he could win 10 games with Cam Newton in 2020?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. He thinks he can win with Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, touche.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and Phil Judge coaching the quarterbacks.
That's just it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree just on some.
But here's the kicker, though. So he makes a move, and all of us said, "What are you doing? We panned it." But in the back of our minds, we're saying, "Well, it's Bill. He has to know what he's doing, right?" It's like you gave him the benefit of the doubt, even though most of us wrote it, and most of us thought it was insanity.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was Bill, maybe, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of criticism by us and everyone like us last year that said that he lost his fastball. But I would just argue that someone who does not have this fastball would not abandon every offensive coaching skill set out there and say, you know what, I can still win without it. I think he bet on himself. He lost. It was a stupid bet.
Exactly.
But he bet on himself, which you got to take some. I do admire him for that. Before we get into the Patriots win-loss total, I think the biggest story this week was that Jack Jones, the defensive back for the New England Patriots, was just 8 of his 9 charges were dismissed for when he carried 2 loaded guns and a loaded magazine through TSA, and he had a bulldog of a lawyer that was able to prove that he may or may not have known that was in there. So, what do you make of this entire storyline? Like, is it a mere fact of she was just a good lawyer, or did it? I don't want to get anyone in trouble here, but is this because he was a New England Patriots player?
Maybe a little both. But I'll tell you, if I get caught doing anything, I'm calling Rosemary Scarpicchio immediately.
I hear that. But
it's funny. She's so annoying, but boy, they just probably in there, they just want to get rid of, say, okay, whatever you want. Just go away.
Yeah. And the one question about this that I wanted to ask you is, we saw what happened with Kendrick Bourne last year. He put in the doghouse because he talked back to Matt Patricia, who was an offensive savant apparently, and he was punished. Do you think that Jack Jones will see the same punishment on the field for what he did off the field as Kendrick Bourne did last year?
Well, he got worse punishment for allegedly talking back to Bill last year. If you think about it,
yeah,
I mean, he was suspended. He was suspended, for, not being diligent with his rehab or again, and again, I don't know this for a fact because I don't have the information, but it was reported that he talked back to Bill. Well, that's a big no-no. So he gets suspended. And this is, he kind of got off clean. That's me.
Yep.
So that was worse. I think that the biggest thing with Jack Jones is this. He just has a pattern, and maybe because no one has drawn the line in the sand and nobody he hasn't really felt repercussions for his actions. He gets tossed out of USC, robs a Panda Express, although that charge was reduced.
Sure.
Goes to Arizona State, gets into another school, plays, and then he gets suspended again. I mean, maybe because he just hasn't, the consequences for his actions haven't, nothing has been egregious enough for him to straighten up.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of similar to what happened obviously in the NBA with John Morant. To me, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit dismissive of this earlier when me and Micah spoke about this, but just hearing the certain things as it unfolded, as you just spoke about it. Yeah, of course, it was insanity for him to do what he just did. What he did, like I can't imagine you holding somebody up for arms chicken. Like I think that's just insane. But that was the case. It's ridiculous. But I just think they unfortunately need him on the field. So I'm not sure if they punish him the way that they do. But back to the John Morant point real quick, I just think that those guys like that need better people in their circle. Just plain and simple. And yes, they're grown men. Yes, they're probably the breadwinners across for both of their families.
Yeah.
But that being said, you need better people in your circle because someone should say, hey, at some point, this is 3 times that you have gotten away with something. There may not be a 4th time. So hopefully someone's in his ear now, eventually saying, hey, this is not the way to go.
I hope it's Rosemary.
Yo.
She was like, hey, I got you out of this once. I'll go through it twice. So we'll see.
Hopefully she put the fear of God into him. Like, look, I got you off because I'm good, right?
Right.
And they don't like me, but you can't. You gotta be smarter. And you can't just keep messing up and expect everyone to clean up your messes.
Right. Exactly.
But the problem is if you're good, it's again, these patterns just continue because you get enabled. The Patriots obviously need him, and it's not like he's Stephon Gilmore good, but he's good enough and talented enough where they do need him.
Yeah.
And I think given and I think, he had this, I want to say rap sheet, but this pattern of behavior when they drafted him.
Right.
But they were willing to take a chance. They were willing to say, we'll put him in the culture in our room. He'll learn from McCourty. You know what I'm saying? He'll ride the straight and narrow because, again, the leadership in that room, Matthew Slater, Devin McCourty, David Andrews, they'll set him straight. Well, there's some people that still aren't set straight.
Right. Which is why I was going to ask, because I think you're going to go there with me. I am in no way comparing the outcome of the situation, but how surprised are you in a post Aaron Hernandez world and with the New England Patriots that you could read a headline that said 2 guns, loaded magazine, TSA, and that guy is still on the team?
That was like where everyone immediately went.
Yeah.
And again, 2 different situations.
Yep.
I mean, but after you've been through an Aaron Hernandez, again, as an organization, you wouldn't, the last thing you want to do is have a situation that could possibly escalate. I'm not saying where somebody kills somebody, but something that's not good, So you would think that they would have want to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
But, and again, they must, if you heard Rosemary say right off the bat that he almost lost his job.
Right. That was a dead giveaway that they already talked to him.
I think the Patriots or Robert Kraft, they were ready to say, we just can't go there. But I think after, guess what? Rosemary perhaps talked to the powers that be in Foxborough and basically, gave her case to them and saying, he's not going to jail. This is he's going to be, I'm going to get him probation. So you don't have to worry about him being in jail. You don't have to worry. And plus, and I actually believe it was just an innocently stupid act on his part. Right. I don't think he had intentions of holding up the plane or, doing something sinister with the guns. He's just not bright.
But if he wasn't a New England Patriot player and he had the exact same pattern in his past, there's no way he's walking out with just probation. Yeah. Now he would. I mean, now the precedent's there.
If it was any of us,
right?
Oh yeah, it's over. I need to get her number. I'm gonna get Rosemary's number.
But as I said, unless we get Rosemary, we're cooked.
That's right. All right, Karen. Before we go into, because what we did last year is we went game by game. I mean, we picked wins and losses, and then we tallied it up at the end. If you're okay with it, I'd love to do that again. I don't want to know how many games you think they're going to win before we run through this. Is that fair?
All right.
Yeah.
I just hope I come up with the same number that I.
All right.
We're gonna see.
And I've been telling everyone. But go ahead.
Week 1 versus the Eagles.
Loss.
Week 2 versus the Dolphins.
Win.
Oh.
All right. Oh my.
Well, they're gonna lose in Miami.
Oh yeah, per usual. Yeah. Per usual.
So I have to pick them winning one of the two because I think they're gonna split.
Gotcha. Okay.
Week 3 at the Jets against Aaron Rodgers for the first time.
Loss.
Week 4 at Dallas.
Loss.
All right, so we're 1-3. Week 5 versus the Saints.
Win.
Okay, 2-3. All right, then we get McDaniels at Las Vegas for week 6.
Loss.
Love this. Then Buffalo at home for week 7.
Loss.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, 2-5. Wow. Okay.
When was the last time? Well, The only time they've split with Buffalo is when there was a flippin' monsoon in Buffalo.
Yep.
Otherwise, Buffalo has dominated them and beaten them twice every year.
Ever since Brady left. All right, so heading into Week 8 versus at Miami, we are now 2-5, and you have them losing that game. So now they're 2-6.
Correct.
All right, now we're facing the Commanders, if that's what their name still is.
Win.
All right, so 3-6. Now we're against Anthony Richardson and the Colts.
Win.
All right, a win in Germany, 4-6. All right, Week 12 at the Giants.
Win.
Really? All right. 13 versus the Chargers.
What's the record now?
They're 5-6.
I'm right now. 5-6 round.
I think the the Chargers are much better, but they always lose to the Patriots.
Yes.
And in December.
And it's December, it's here, so I'm going to give the Patriots that game.
And the Chargers, unfortunately, will be hurt by then. That's just I'm just being honest.
Well, talk about one quarterback that Belichick has kind of,
tortured.
got his head. It's been Justin Herbert.
Yep.
Yeah.
So until he figures it out, I got to go with the Patriots.
Yep. Totally agree.
So you have them at 6-6 going into the Week 14 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Lost.
All right, 6-7. Then we're playing the Chiefs.
Lost.
At Denver.
I would say on paper, in theory, that the Patriots should win that game, but it's at Denver, which is a tough place, and it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Loss.
So you have them at 6-9 right now.
Yep.
At Buffalo.
Loss.
And then against the Jets.
Win.
So you, after, we'll just call it 45 minutes of talking me off the ledge, telling me that the Patriots will be better, it will look better, have them finishing one game worse than last year.
I think I'm coming out and something MassLive has. I think I have them at 9-8. I did, but now I'm trying to figure out what other wins I possibly gave them.
7-10. Is that the type of a season that you think would get Bill
moved
from power? No. And is that
Especially
sort of reason?
If we're better. If they're competitive in all these games, which I think they will be, which wasn't the case last year. If they look better and are simply beaten because the other team is better, as opposed to last year, not only were the other teams better, but the Patriots were a lot worse.
Well,
I think they'll be much more competitive. But again, a lot of these games are hard to predict too because of the thing of, who's healthy and who isn't. I think last year the Patriots actually took advantage of the fact that we're seeing a lot of second and third string quarterbacks or backups or rookies. That's not going to be the case this year. Unless, Josh Allen gets hurt, unless Tua suffers a concussion. Tua has never lost to the Patriots. Never.
Yeah.
Although I have him losing one this year.
I know. That's a stuff.
And as much as I think the Jets are going to be a lot better, it's still hard for me to totally dive into the hype, Plus, at the end of the year where I have them beating the Jets, I think Aaron Rodgers might be hurt.
Really? So,
their line, they have offensive line problems too.
Yeah, but they got the stud. They have Garrett Wilson. He is a stud wide receiver.
Right, but if Aaron's on his backside, how the heck is he going to get it to Aaron Wilson?
Well, but I think. Do you think that the Jets' offensive line is worse than ours? Like, if you stack it up, I don't think it is. And even if it was the same, I would. Now, I actually don't like Aaron Rodgers at all. Never have. I'd still say he has the ability to get the ball out quicker than Mac Jones with the same offensive line.
Probably.
Just better arm talent too. So
yeah,
of course. But again, if somebody's coming in from his blind side and he doesn't see it within a half second, even if he gets rid of the ball, he's going down.
Yeah, I'll see a lot of it.
I just, we'll see. I have them splitting with Miami and splitting with the Jets, and losing both to Buffalo.
So you have them 2-4 in the division.
Yep.
Thanks. And what do you think it would? Sorry, Ray. What do you think it would take? Like, how many losses would it take for Robert Kraft to consider doing?
I think if they go 5-12, 4-13, 3-14, 2-15. Yeah, I think that would probably might put it over the edge for Robert.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
And that was the case. Like, I would want to be in the car driving him to Logan for myself. That would be insane. But my thing is now, as someone who follows college football, if they were to go 2-14, that means they'd be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes from USC, and you get your quarterback if that's the case.
Well, but there's quite a few quarterbacks, as we've seen, that it's going to be a great quarterback draft by the look of it.
So maybe that's the. I mean, I thought they should have tanked for Lawrence a few years ago, but I think Bill was too prideful after Brady leaving.
Well, what do you guys see the record as?
So I have them in 8-9, but looking a lot better than they were last year. I just functionally think they're going to be a better offense because they actually have an offensive coordinator.
But again, the only layups it's a really tough start that they have. The first 4 to 6 games are tough. They have those bunnies, Washington and Indianapolis, in the middle. And then in the end, again, you have to play Buffalo, Miami, the Jets, Kansas City are in the closing part of that schedule. So put it this way, if they break even, if they're 2-2, I think that's a great start for them. Yeah. Because then then they'll get the momentum in the middle of the schedule, which is technically a little bit easier. And maybe if they get up around 7 or 8 wins before hitting the final 4, you have to remember they've faded each of the last 3-4 years in the final games.
Yeah.
That again, for me, it's like, okay, prove it that you're different, right? During the 20-year run, during the Brady years, God, they were unbeatable in December or after Thanksgiving, because that's what Bill preached. And obviously having Brady helped, but you could bet the mortgage on them going 5-1, 6-0, 4-2 at the worst over the final 6 games. They've been awful in the final 6 games. Awful. Like 1-5 awful, 2-4 awful the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Or post Brady, let's say.
Yeah. But even in 2019, like
2017 too.
Right, but 2019, they start 8-0, and then they got real old real fast against Baltimore,
Right.
and it was over after that.
Think about this. I mean, the Patriots have typically, and this counts in the Brady years, haven't necessarily come out of the gates flying, but that's been okay because they, again, the Belichick method is he wants the team to be peaking right at the end, right before the playoffs start. So if you have a loss here and there in the first 6 games, it's okay because you're going to continue to get better, get the momentum rolling, get the ball rolling so that you just kind of, I don't want to say win out, but the losses in the start really didn't matter all that much during their dynastic run.
Right.
Since then, their slow starts, the 1 year where they actually won 7 straight in the middle, the first Judon year, and the first year with Mac Jones, they completely faded down the stretch.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Mac faded, Judon faded, the team faded, and it was hard to think that they were gonna all of a sudden revive when the playoffs started, and Buffalo crushed them.
Yeah.
And in that game. So several narratives have to change. They can't start out as and again, starting out fast in this scenario is like 2-2.
Yeah.
It's not going, it's avoiding 0-4 and 1-3. Again, the opponents are good. So if you hang in those first 4 to 6 games, come out either 3-3, 4-2. Okay, then you're going to build momentum going through Washington, going through Indy, going through that, beating the Chargers here because you always beat the Chargers. Then, okay, maybe, and that may, give them a little confidence to do a little better toward the end of the year. We'll see. For me, I'm someone where it's like, you got to prove it.
Right.
Prove it that you're not going to fade down the stretch.
Right.
Prove it you can beat a mobile quarterback. Prove it you can beat an elite quarterback. Until they do, I'm going to be a little on the reserve side when I'm picking them to win games.
Yeah, no, because like even for me, like so Mike had him in 9. You just mentioned 7-10. I actually had him in 9-8 on a show that we did recently, and for me, I think it's because they'll have some games where they didn't close. I should have closed like that week in December where they have the Chargers and the Steelers. For what it's worth, and I know most of it was for Brady, sometimes even with Bledsoe. It has not mattered who's been the quarterback, whether it's been in Pittsburgh or here. We beat them. They have not beat us when it mattered. I know they got us years ago when they broke up that 21 game winning streak years ago, but they used to do not beat us when it mattered. So I'm not completely sold on Kenny Pickett. He's gotten better, but I think that's the winnable game even in high school.
Well, I did. It's funny. I changed my tune on that game because I had that as in the realm of it's like playing Indy, it's like playing Washington. Kind of a middle of the road team that you can beat. And you did last year.
Yeah.
But I watched them in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense has always traditionally been good. I'm sorry. And they're good again.
Mm-hmm.
But Pickett and those weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh.
They are a skill player factory. They always have good wide receivers.
I kind of like Kenny Pickett, but here's the thing.
Let me figure it out. I just think to me, there's still room.
You love it if whoever's been picking receivers in the draft for Pittsburgh came to moved to Foxborough and started. They always hit it out of the park. They just know how to draft receivers. It's unbelievable. It's uncanny. They get the right guys all the time.
From plastic balls, smallers, you name it. Yeah, it's been great.
They got Pickens. Who did the Patriots got Tyquan Thornton, and they moved up to get Tyquan. Again, it's just they made.
Are you out on him? Because we didn't talk about him earlier. Are you out on him as a contributor for the team? I know he's out to week 5 at least, but I'm personally I'm done. I don't want.
It's just you can't be out on him. You know,
tell me back off the letters then. Okay.
You can't be out on him, even though all the signs aren't good. But he's the one guy who has something that nobody else has on the team, and that's speed.
Yeah.
And you know, in his rookie camp, he showed even a little more than that. I mean, he showed. You know, it looked like he had an understanding of the game. It looked like he had an understanding how to run routes. Mm-hmm. And that after he got hit and broke his collarbone, that's all seemed to go out the window because he wasn't the same when he came back.
Right.
And all we've seen during this camp in preseason, he hurt his hamstring. He was missed. The early camps had a hamstring or something. Then it was a collar. Then it was this. Then it was that.
It's ridiculous.
It's, but maybe if he can stay on the field, and maybe, again, all his missed time has hurt him tremendously. So if he can ever figure out how to stay healthy, and they can work with him, or Bill O'Brien can work with him. Because I know Bill O'Brien would find a way to utilize that speed where someone would have to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
But he can't help from the sideline.
Yeah, that's true. Now with a clip on your hand, but I think just to add on to that, because obviously I sounded a bit harsh, but if we can duplicate they can duplicate what he did in the Cleveland game last year, running the jet sweeps, running a backside screen on like that type of stuff. Those gadget plays, like you saw the blueprint of what he should be in the NFL. He should be your Antoine Randall 2.0. So ironically, because he played for the Steelers, but I'm like, to me, I think that's where he can be. If he's on the field. So yeah, I don't know. To me, he was there, and then they went away from that. So I
think he can be a deep threat too. I mean. It was a joint practice against Green Bay. Mm-hmm. He, it was a long. I forget if it was Mack who threw the ball or Bailey, but it was a bomb down the left side of the field, and he got a little bit of separation from the coverage, but they closed as he was. But he made a sensational catch, diving catch. But guess what?
Yep.
Goodbye, shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you see the ability, but he gets hurt every stupid play.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you have someone on the field like that who makes those plays and doesn't get hurt, you have something.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So this Sunday, 4:25, Tom Brady returns to the house that Drew Bledsoe built, but that he furnished. What do you think that atmosphere is going to be like, especially if the Eagles get out to a pretty sizable lead at halftime?
It's like the Patriots are taking a chance that it's not going to be 30-0 at halftime, and then just playing Brady, or maybe that's how they planned it. Like it's like people will forget the score because Tom's here. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I just know that, or I am fairly convinced that the place will be rocking at halftime, despite what happens, because it's almost like you're remembering back to that great time and good time, and you're celebrating 2 decades of historical excellence. And Brady was the guy pulling the strings, basically. He was the guy, he was the chief reason why it happened. And again, I don't want to diminish the players are cast around him because everyone, the defense had to do something too. So, and Bill Belichick had to do something too. But he was the orchestrator. He was the conductor. Everything revolved around him. And again, his once in a lifetime type of ability, which is what is competitiveness that basically, again, spanned two decades to never want to lose.
Yeah.
And, or not being satisfied with 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings, 4 ring. No, still wanted the next one. He still always had the drive and desire for the next one. And it's, again, you can't replicate that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, somebody's retirement ceremony going to go well because before Pitts came back, we lost. When KG came last year, with retirement ceremony against Dallas, we lost. I think Dustin Pedroia, when he came back, they lost too. So it's just like somebody has to win when a great player comes back for the retirement ceremony in this era. Like so maybe Sunday they break the mold, even though no they.
Some people have predicted an upset in the game, basically because again, it's you catching the Eagles at the right time. I mean, they're like the Patriots. They rest the starters for most of the preseason. You don't see them, and maybe you catch them having a little rust or not being quite as great and dynamic as they will be. Week 6, 7, 8, 9 through the, through the rest.
Yeah, that's the hope.
So we've spent a good portion of the show, and I promise this is the last question, unless it goes on for a little bit longer, and then you say something interesting, Karen, which you always do, and I'll ask another question. But I'll try. What do you think, or who do you think are the bright spots for the New England Patriots going into this year? Because we've talked a lot about the what ifs and the negative, but based on what you've seen at camp, who are the bright spots?
Well, what do you define as a bright spot?
The things that give you optimism and maybe a smile as opposed to a ugh.
Yeah.
Well, on the offensive side of the ball, it's Ramondre Stevenson. I think Kendrick Bourne is going to make a lot of people smile this year. Again, based just on he looked like a completely different player than the year before. Or he looked more like the player he was when he first got here.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. That was promising.
Sure was. Mm-hmm.
We're seeing that Kendrick Bourne. But depending on, again, I'm not sure how much they'll be getting on the field, but I think Demario Pop Douglas is an exciting player, and he's in the mold of their slot receivers. He's in the mold of an Edelman, a Troy Brown, Amendola, quick as all get out. And, he might be the one lone explosive player they have. The problem is how much are you going to be able to get him on the field? Because guess what? JuJu plays there. And, they're going to go heavy tight end sets. So, they might only have 2 receivers on the field at a time. So he's, because he's a rookie, he's down the depth chart. But I don't know, maybe some people will be hurt and you'll see more of him and then you won't be able to get him off the field. So I like Kayshon Boutte too, but he's, again, even further down the depth chart, and he might be like a healthy scratch from week to week.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think lacking of a stupid pun, I think Demario will pop. If he's allowed to play, that's the offensive side of the ball. On defense, I think many of us think that Christian Gonzalez is going to be a very, very good cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
By the same time, he's going to go through growing pains this year. I mean, and I don't know if people will have patience, but if you see him and watch him and just see his how athletic he is, how fluid he is as a mover, how he moves. Again, you can see the promise there, and you can see that he will probably develop into a very, very good cornerback.
Yep.
He's going to have growing pains, but if you have patience, I think he's going to be a bright spot ultimately on the defense. I think Keon White is gonna be great. I mean, I think their pass rush is gonna be terrific, and it could be really, really good if we see Barmore basically have the breakout type of season that we've all been
waiting for.
waiting for. But I think with Keon White and Josh Uche and Matthew Judon, I think they're going to have a very good pass rush, which will help Christian Gonzalez with his growing pains, which will help their secondary. It's a little unusual that they're going to have a little bit of a rotation in Devin's spot at free safety.
Mhm.
I'm a little nervous about that, but let's see how it plays out.
I like Mapu too. I
was just going to say his name.
So hopefully he dominates.
They haven't. I think there was one. It might have been the final preseason game, where you could think. Again, Bill has always had these linebackers who are big, hulking, tall, destroyers, but the game has changed, and the game has gotten faster. And receivers are faster, tight ends are faster, running backs coming out of the backfield are faster. You need speed at linebacker, and this kid has it. He can move from side to side. It's what's been missing from the second level the past 3 or 4 years, and they've just kept getting torched. Well, the other thing is also if the mobile quarterbacks. They have nobody that can keep up with the mobile quarterbacks. I think Marte is a partial answer to some of their problems.
No.
But again, is he rookie? How much is he going to get on the field? I think, based on how they used him, based on how we saw them, even in the early camps and the assignments he was given, they know how good he is. They know how smart he is. But we'll see. I mean, who are you going to take off the field for him to play? That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for spending the evening with us here on the eve of the NFL regular season kicking off. For those that don't know and that you've been living under a rock, where can they find you if they want to read any of your stories or interact with you on social media?
Well, you can go to the MassLive website. Or you can go to Kay Guregian at masslive.com. So, again, plug in MassLive. I'm sure I'll show up somewhere.
You do.
But yeah, as I said, it's been a nice transition for me, and I'm pretty much doing the same thing. So that helps. But I'll probably be branching out and doing a few other things as well. But we'll see. I really hope the Patriots prove me wrong.
Yeah, same.
Same.
Yeah, one on it.
And I'm not shutting down the possibility of that happening. But as I said, they're gonna have to prove some things to me before I'm willing to, the pendulum goes to the way of, maybe they could creep up to 10 wins.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'm still on the other side. So let's see.
Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining us. I did so for Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen Guregian. This is Michael Marcangelo saying thank you so much for listening to this in the point, and we'll talk to you next week.
Are you a fan of classic cinema or a young person who wants to discover the best films of all time? Do these legendary movies still hold up?
On the Generation Film podcast, two guys who grew up when movies dominated the culture share a great film with a panel of young movie lovers and see how it plays for today's generation.
We discuss changes in storytelling styles, representation,
the making of each film, its initial reception, and how its meaning has changed over the years.
Join us as we explore cinema classics across generations on Generation Film.
Electricast. Welcome, explorers of the human experience. This is Let's Talk Soul, and I'm your host, Claudia Monticelli. We're not afraid of the great mysteries of existence here. Soul versus consciousness, we're on it. Spirituality versus science, we've got that covered too. Join us in navigating these profound topics with wisdom, curiosity, and a dash of audacity. Whether you're a spiritual veteran or just starting your journey, Let's Talk Soul is your passport to the unknown. Let's Talk Soul, diving into the depths of the human spirit. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Electricast.